not crazy, not too dark. We'll just sort of strengthen it a little. Down this side. And not all the way to this line. Actually, I need to get in with that brush and soften that line. It's way too strong. I just run it. Now you won't see on the video, but just run that line just down there a little to give it some strength. Blend it out a little bit, because that is quite a strong line. So just with my little flat brush, I'll just soften that a bit more. Okay, that's a bit better. And if we're on that side as well, I'm going to just add a little more to balance it out, just down that edge there. And also run sort of slightly darker colour than I wanted, and then I will often just use my water brush to sort of blend it out to a softer finish. So whilst I don't mix colours on paper, sometimes I even make my colours, I can add colour that might be darker than I want on the paper, and I'll just use my water brush to soften it. So I'm just bringing that shadow just a little bit further out, sort of midway now. And maybe I'll just bring it down a little. Okay. Do I like that? I think so. Whilst we're here, let's do a little. I wanted to. Well, I'm going to do lemon anyway, so I'm going to just grab. Hang on.
I can't see what you're doing off the page. Are you putting a little bit of lemon on the plate?
I will be. Yes, I haven't yet. I've just been using that wash of that moss green, but through
I know I need to mix a bit more of that, I think.
Okay. Through here, do you see that the colour of the leaf is quite a nice warm tone, just through this edge here where the sun's hit it as it's curved. So I definitely want to grab a little bit of lemon and put that in there for now, and then that way when we do our other washes, we'll have a nice warmness to it. Now let's see, we can always add more lemon, so it's just a soft sort of, if it was a baby pink, we're looking at a baby lemon colour.
You put what was it that you put with the lemon?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No, I'm just going to do a wash of lemon in this area so that we can any wash of our normal green over there will be nice and warm. And also, I mean, obviously you'll see the lighted edge that we need to leave clear on the photo. So it's just a soft lemon, it's not too strong.
Still leave the edge.
Yeah, I do still leave the edge, because that edge is quite white. I mean, it's not a warm edge. It's quite a cool highlight edge, you could say. So, and then that lemon sort of just goes along this here as well, and it drifts off where the edge sort of curves over. So you want to pop a little bit in there as well. So now that we've got our lemon, there's definitely some other places to put it. So a soft lemon, and if I look, it's quite a nice glow in through here, this part. So I think that's not even bright enough. Let's see. Yeah. Just making my lemon soft enough. There we go. So it's just a really, you can see that, it's very soft.
That's just by thinning it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I haven't used a different one, just whatever one you've got is fine, but just through here there's definitely a nice glow. So I'm going to pop a bit of lemon in there, and then under this petal curve, just a little bit. It's quite strategic, it's not everywhere. And that helps just the look in general as well, of course. Do a tiny bit through this curve. Just warm that up a little. There's a bit through here. Now this edge here, see, I'm really leaving that because that's one of the whitest, brightest parts of our flowers, so I want to leave that, but that shadow was quite a warm shadow there. I think even this whole part of this petal is quite warm. I could add a little bit there. Let's see. I mean, I kind of do it in an irregular shape. It's not just sort of a block of colour. Try and be a bit strategic. And some of these shadows on this part of the petal seem to be a wee bit warm. I'm going to sneeze in a minute, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thanks. And it's warmer down in through here, so pop in a bit of that. Just in this bit, it's quite nice and warm. And there. And where else are we looking? Ooh, okay. Up here, quite warm. So I definitely want to put that all in, and I would do I just wash that whole thing with lemon. And a little bit in through this part here, just under this curve. It's almost like a glow rather than anything else, but of course you can add yellow at the end of your painting as well. I often do that. So I'll look through the whole thing and look at my reference photo and see sort of where I feel like the sun's sort of making it a bit more warm, and I'll add yellow at the end. that normally pulls it all together and makes it look all nice. So I'm going to just do a little bit down this bottom curve here. Is that about it? Let's see, where else? And a little up on this curve here. Okay. Oh, and a little bit just in this area here. And that curve there. So yeah, that's kind of random, little bits here and there. I think. Okay, let's do one thing whilst we wait for things to dry just a tiny bit, and that is strengthen this dark through here. Well, actually, I'll strengthen this dark through here. I'm not sure about you. What do you think from yours? Is it? Do you think it's dark enough?
Not at that area, no, actually, no.
Oh, okay, great. There we go.
That was one that's a bit that escaped, I think.
Right. Okay. So I just want to darken it just a little bit because it'll just help define this back edge of this petal, really. I mean, it's going to get darker, but for now I'll just pop in colour. You know, it's always about just repainting over everything, 50 times as you make things darker and darker and darker. And that's not, I didn't make an incredible difference on that, but it just kind of helps. Apply just a little bit more. In fact, I can do a very small sweep of colour up that edge there. I'm just running the brush over the edges between the petal and the shadow, because I really want to make that not too defined, so it's soft like it is in the photo. And I think we could tackle it next week as well, the leaf. To be honest, there's not much painting in the leaf because it is quite a bit softer than everything else. It's going to be, it's apart from the little edge here, which is a little bit sharper and got something going on. The rest doesn't. That should be quite soft, drifting onto nothing. So there's not that many layers to go actually, to be honest. Okay, so from there, it's about just going over redefining our shadows again, and maybe, let's see, I'm just going to grab brush and soften that edge there. Okay, one thing I might do is just start let's see, what would I do? Now, here's the thing. Have you seen how I do this sort of stuff?
Oh, no.
Okay. I'll show you now, and then maybe between now and next week, no, the week after, isn't it? I'd like to have a wee practice, because you'll need to practice. So what it is like, what I would do, for now what I would do is, yeah, I'd start on that. So that's where I get like a nice cheap brush, and this brush is again from the stationery store. It's just a nylon brush, because I wouldn't want to do it with my nice, my nice more expensive sable brushes. And if you've ever, yeah, well, you may not have watched. Hang on a sec, let's see. Okay. So that's how that is. But what I do, let's pull this in here so you can see. Say, for instance, and I'll just make a darker colour just so you can see, the videos are, sometimes you can't see, because we'll need this to be super soft for in here, but just for the purpose of showing you, and even for you to practice a little bit. So that is a wash that's quite dark, as it were. And what I would do is I kind of, let me move this over, it's on the video as well, but I kind of do this, I smush my port brush around like that, and I get it where it looks like that. It's a way of for me to when you say, oh, I want to do all those nice fine lines, and rather than it was kind of my lazy way of, rather than getting a fine brush and painting them, I thought I would do this. So I was like, oh, I don't know.
I can, even just doing that on the paper, I'm doing that what you're doing now on the paper, you can make some really nice effects, can't you?
Absolutely, and that's the thing, and it's a little bit random, it's a little bit uncontrolled,
but it's really
but
good.
it's and you sort of just brush it over and see what comes up. Now, the point that I like is that not every line has to come along, like just like that. Oh, I get one over there, a few in here, and little, and I don't mind that at all, because it's like this paper doesn't work as well as this paper. This paper's nicer to work on, but it just has some randomness. It has some nice some lines.
It's very soft. It softens off itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
As you drag it across.
Yes, and some hit and miss, and so you've got these kind of lines. Yeah, and the thing is though, you just have to keep sort of working out how much wash you need on your brush that's not too much that it globs together, enough to give you some lines without just a wash of colour.
Very good.
So yeah, it is a lovely effect, and honestly it just can be really amazing. Now, one layer of it isn't good enough. You really need to do a couple of layers, to make it look really beautiful on any one particular thing. But that is something that but what we do is...
see, particularly sort of in your middle section, there are sort of little lines like that, aren't there?
In the middle section of what?
So if you, where your brush is now, to the left and up.
Oh, you mean up here?
There, a bit round there are some like line things, isn't there?
Well, this is the thing, and that's what I would do. I'm just getting rid of, there's a splotch of colour I've got on my paper. I don't know how. So that is what I would do. I would do that, and I would do that in around here. Just to sort of, this is our sort of blended thing, and I might do some in around there, but really in around here, and that will get you a nice sort of shape, all these nice shapes. But it would be nice to sort of practice that. Now the thing is, see, I gave it to you in sort of that darker colour, because see how dark the colour is that you put on your brush, but by the time you put it on the paper in a splayed effect, it's much lighter. And I know that if I do that with you now, say in one of our greens, like our little mossy green, it's already a light colour, and by the time I do this, you almost not see it on the camera, because it's not a bright, it's not a dark wash to begin with, and then it gets even lighter as we splay it. Let's see. But see, that would be something that if you had a little practice on, just do it in lots of different colours, because it's just, otherwise it's a tad bit boring. Just doing it on a piece of paper, I pick colours that I like, and I just practice. So you can see it. But because let's see, that's our wash colour. But if I splay the edges and see how we go, and then you're really not seeing much of that at all. There's a little bit you might be able to see, you might be able to pick up on the camera, but not very much. So, but that is something that I would definitely be using, like, and it's a way of blending as well. Like if I bring it in through this part here, really lightly, obviously just following the shape and the curve, not too much, because I want to keep this bit here a bit light, so that bit there where the curve is a little bit darker, yeah, through here it's a little bit lighter, so we'll probably leave that for now. But I definitely, on this part here, that little block here would work quite well. You could just drag it over, see what comes up really, just to give yourself some nice lines. Of course, you still got to follow the curve of the petal, and even so much as little ones like that. I mean, I don't just go curve all the way down, because that petal came down and then it has a little kick out here, so I just sort of use it and follow that line. You need to just make sure it's dry enough that you're not just covering it in a wash of colour, and that you can see the lines. You want your wash to be dark enough that you see your effect. But like there, if I could just see a few lines added, and just enough that it sort of shows some shape and some nice little texture. Now, and I do that really lightly, because of course you can always keep going. I mean, and I find that this particular way of doing it, to make those sort of lines are better if they're done in a couple of layers, and a couple of different slightly different coloured layers. So we'd do maybe the mossy green, and then we'll do one that's maybe slightly bluer in parts and slightly more lemony in other parts. Like just a couple of different colours will really make it feel a lot more sort of 3D. And like in through here, this is quite a darker part. We might make a different wash colour for that, with some blues and so on. And you could run it just gently out through this area here, following that line. Let's see if we can see it a little bit. And this is why I want it to be about 80% there, because it still adds colour, but you don't want to be going forever on this. So I sort of build up my base wash first, and then when I'm ready, that's when I sort of do this last bit. And I don't know, let's see if you can see it. Well, you might be able to see it on the camera. Let me just check again. I want to check the focus again on the camera so I can show you. So it's super light, but I don't know if you can see it all through here. There's, if we have a look at how that sort of runs, that shadow comes around. And also at the back, of course, because we are doing it slightly lighter, you can still do this technique. You could just later on you might come in with that flat brush and soften some parts of it, so it becomes a little bit more blurred. But that you can do some a bit later. And also, it's a bit helpful with this brush to be a little bit finer. The one I've got, it's the only one I've got, it's a bit big for this particular size. If I was doing it a little bit lighter, I mean a little bit bigger, that would be great. If I kind of need it slightly smaller. So that's like my most fun thing that I like to do, and it's still the initial wash, like I say, this initial little bit of doing it doesn't look amazing. You can start seeing little lines of colour and that's good, but it really needs a couple of sessions, you know, it needs a couple of layers to make it look even better. So I just want to make sure it's light enough and I can just drag it. Just got a couple of lines. So it already, yeah, really, it definitely helps. So that's something that you can work on for the next week or two. And even over here, you know, this part, this petal, this will be really good for that. Have a nice soft wash. And if you see, what I didn't do was just do the same thing all the way up there. Sort of, I still want to try and leave a few spaces that have nothing, just for the moment. So you get used to sort of where your brush sort of leaves some lines of colour, what works and what doesn't, but that's not bad, that's pretty good. Let's see, and then through here. And then you might have to come in with your little, another little, we will come in with another fine brush, you know, and you just strengthen up all those darks and things. This is where we do a nice all right through here is good. This petal is particularly good for this. It's got quite a nice expanse of shape and then often I'll turn around the brush and I can, you know, strengthen up any sort of ones that's a bit too strong. Any sort of lines that have come in that I like where they've landed and what they look like, and think, oh well, I'll develop that. I mean, you know, if the, for instance here, there's a good one here, so kind of emphasises that curve happily, so I'll just strengthen that one up a little into here, whatever's sort of left on the brush as it were. So that's something, if you have a look, because I would say through this front leaf and this, petal, through this front petal, this petal, all through here, you won't get too much through there because it's quite, but you could try a little. You're not going to get something, but it might just need a little bit more colour, that's all. And especially if you have a smaller one, like I said, it'll be easier. So just make some of those curves. And say in the next week or so, sort of work on those ones here, front ones, and even the back a little bit. Like I said, you can always soften them if you find you've added a little bit too much detail, or not, depends how much detail you want, because this would certainly add detail, but that's like a first layer, and maybe I'll definitely strengthen up through here so that it's a little darker, so we get a definite curve. Still needs quite a bit of curving through there. And here's really nice, that technique will work really well, and through there as well, and just a bit through this part here. That would be mostly done then. So how's that?
Yes,
lots to work out on.
You know when you've been playing
and
at the start where you put it on, and then you've got some nice little brush strokes, but where you first put it down it's gone a bit splodgy. So I think I'd better wait for that to dry.
Yeah, do, because this really works only on dry paper. Of course, if it's anything that's damp, then it goes in soft.
That was still a bit damp where I put it down, and I didn't realise. So,
yep, for sure. You need to make sure it's all bone dry so that it really is just lines of colour. Yeah,
they stay put.
Whereas
they merged, is what I'm saying. So
in
that
absolutely.
bit it merged, whereas then further along the little lines were there. But
yeah.
I think I need to wait for this to dry.
You do need to wait for it to dry, and then when it's good and dry is when you start doing that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so yes, wait till it dries and then do some practice. If you've got a smaller brush than I have, that would be great, because this is a bit too big for this sort of stuff, for this size. This is a 6, but and then you'll get a much better result on a smaller brush, just because of the little nooks and crannies here you can do. But I should find a brush that's better for this, I think.